By the year 1914, Europe appeared from the outside to be a continent of order, strength, and balance. Life continued in the great cities. Trains departed on time, factories operated without interruption, and people carried on with their daily routines. Yet beneath this surface, there was a tension that had been building for years, something everyone could feel, but no one openly spoke about. States did not trust one another. Alliances had been formed, but these alliances were not truly meant to preserve peace. Instead, they existed to ensure that no one would stand alone when conflict finally came. Everyone was preparing. Only a spark was missing. No one expected that spark to come from a 19-year-old boy from a poor village in Bosnia. Gavrilo Princip was born into a large family, and his childhood was shaped by poverty. But this hardship did not make him silent or withdrawn. On the contrary, his early exposure to reading allowed him to see the world through a different lens. Concepts such as freedom, justice, and independence, which he encountered in the texts he read, stopped being abstract ideas and became realities that he believed should exist. The environment in which he lived constantly reinforced these thoughts. At that time, Bosnia was under the control of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, a situation that created deep unrest among Serbian nationalists. When Princip arrived in Sarajevo, he realized that this dissatisfaction was not just an idea, but an active movement. He met others who thought like him. The group known as Young Bosnia was more than just a circle of like-minded individuals. It was a place where people did not only talk, but believed they could bring about real change. Over time, this belief grew sharper. It was no longer just about ideas. It was about action. During this period, Princip came into contact with a more radical organization. The secret group, known as the Black Hand, was planning an act that would have a powerful impact against Austria-Hungary. This would not be a simple protest or a minor attack. The target would be someone who directly represented the heart of the empire. In the summer of 1914, that opportunity appeared. It was announced that Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, would visit Sarajevo. This visit carried symbolic meaning. The empire intended to demonstrate its control over the region. However, for Princip and those who shared his views, the visit was not just a message. It was a provocation. A plan was formed. The route the Archduke would take was determined. 6 individuals were positioned at different points throughout the city. Each one would wait for the right moment. If one failed, another would act. They carried pistols, bombs, and poison. The plan was simple, but it was also dangerous. On the morning of June 28th, Sarajevo was bright and unusually active. The Archduke and his wife began their tour of the city in an open-top car. Among the crowds gathered along the streets were both curious citizens and those who were part of the plan. The first attack came earlier than expected. One of the conspirators threw a bomb at the Archduke's car. However, the bomb did not hit its target directly. As the car moved forward, the explosion struck the vehicle behind, injuring several people and causing chaos. The attacker was captured. At that moment, it seemed as though the plan had failed. The Archduke continued his journey and reached the city hall. Officials advised him to cancel the rest of his schedule, but Franz Ferdinand refused. He insisted on visiting the wounded in the hospital. This decision became one of the most critical links in the chain of events that followed, because the route was changed, and that change was not properly communicated to the driver. Meanwhile, Gavrilo Princip believed that the operation had failed. As he wandered through the city, he felt exhausted and disappointed. After some time, he entered a small restaurant to eat. For him, the day was over. But at that exact moment, one of the most unexpected coincidences in history took place. The Archduke's car turned into the wrong street. When the driver realized the mistake, he was forced to stop and attempt to reverse. And on that street, standing at the edge of the sidewalk, was Gavrilo Princip. The distance between them was only a few steps. This was not planned. This was not a prepared moment. It was pure coincidence. Princip did not hesitate. He drew his weapon and fired 2 shots. The first bullet struck Franz Ferdinand. The second struck his wife. Everything happened within seconds. There was no dramatic chase, no prolonged confrontation. That single moment, in its simplicity, produced one of the most devastating consequences in history. When news of the assassination spread across Europe, the tension that had been building for years could no longer be contained. Austria-Hungary blamed Serbia and issued a harsh ultimatum. Some of the demands were accepted, but when all were not met, war was declared. From that point on, events unfolded in a chain reaction. Russia became involved. Germany responded. France and Britain joined the conflict. Within a short time, a regional crisis turned into a global war. Within a week, the major powers of Europe were at war. And this war did not end quickly. It lasted for years. The front lines expanded. Technology advanced. But this advancement brought greater destruction. Trench warfare, chemical weapons, and industrialized combat claimed the lives of millions. Approximately 17 million people died. During all of this, Princip was in prison. He was tried, but because he was under the age required for execution, he was sentenced to a long prison term. His health deteriorated over time. As the war continued, he remained alone in his narrow cell. And before the war ended, he died. The bullet he fired changed the course of history. But this does not mean that one man alone changed the world. Because that shot was fired into a balance that was already on the verge of collapse. He was not the cause of the war, but he was its beginning.